I was hoping we could be neighbors, but there's a lot of urban to be shared.
Maybe you'll find one in there or something.
You never know.
Are we ready? It is 7 o'clock.
How you doing, Josh?
Let me call to order the meeting of the Highlands Town Board for Thursday, June 19th, 2025. You'll notice my iPad is closed. Just a few minutes before this, I'd been having some problems today. It's gone blank on me, so I'll just use my paper and my iPhone if necessary. Would you please now join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on our agenda is a statement of conflict of interest. I call that statement to the attention of our board. If you have any business tonight that we'll be discussing where you think there is a conflict of interest, please disclose that. The next item would be the public comment period, and I will open up the floor now for public comment and invite anyone who would like to make a public comment, come down at the table with the microphone, identify your name, and make your public comment. So is there anyone who would like to make a public comment tonight?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Did you pull the microphone
Oh,
closer?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's on, just needs close.
Closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Can you
the video.
Can you
picks
hear
it
me
up.
now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Gretchen Chidsey.
And I'm Truman Chitts.
We are residents of Colosage Drive, and as you know, we've presented a petition concerning what has been happening in Riverwalk and how it's affected our neighborhood and our neighbors and us. And I think I've pretty much spelled out the points that we all are concerned about. Unfortunately, I thought I had in here a copy of the petition, but I brought something else instead. But anyway, I think it's pretty clear, and I hope all of you have been able to read it and understand where we're coming from. I just obtained 3 more signatures, so I think we're up to 50 residents now. And I just wanted to let the board know that there's definitely some issues with the private community versus public. And also the fact that it's a very big safety issue. We feel like we've had a lot of problems with speeding. It's not always the construction vehicles that are coming from there or going out the back gate, but we've seen a lot of that. We've also today, another concern did come up, and that is on that egress that we've been told is temporary coming off of Colosage Drive. And it's fine. We understand that gas tanks have to be delivered and buried and that sort of thing. But a real concern is the developer going to keep using that egress for other properties until he sells that property? And I don't feel that that should be something that we on Colosage Drive or any residents of Mirror Lake neighborhood should have to look at. He has many cleared lots in the Riverwalk. It's a private community, as I stated in the petition. And we would just like to see it being handled in that way. And I don't know if you have anything to add, honey?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And this is, your petition was sent to the board.
I have it here.
And we know that you've been working with the staff and during the mayor's report, I'll address, the concerns that have been raised, okay? And let the board discuss and weigh into. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Would anyone else like to make a public comment?
Hey guys, my name is Dustin Hirschfeld. I am the owner, developer, and GC at Riverwalk. So I'd like to take the opportunity to address the concerns of the Colosage Drive community. I understand the concern regarding the increased traffic along Colosage Drive. During my due diligence period, I spoke extensively with Josh, Michael, Bobby, everybody there. We looked through all the old covenants and restrictions, all the issues regarding Riverwalk. And I think we're working diligently to exceed the expectations and try to do a really good job with that, as well as managing the traffic on Colosage Drive as best we can. In specific regards to the back gate, I reviewed the minutes from the town board meeting held on November 2nd, 2005. The town board in that meeting was considering whether to approve the preliminary plat of the Riverwalk subdivision. The board reviewed in some detail, as well as a list of items recommended by the planning board, which the town planner reported the developers had agreed to include in the restrictive covenants, which would then be approved by the town board with the recorded plat. Item in question is the recommended item number 3. All construction, quote, all construction traffic for single family construction as well as infrastructure construction to be entering Riverwalk subdivision will use the entrance on Highway 64 East and not the entrance on Colosage Drive. So the original developer, I'm the 4th developer in Riverwalk. The original developer was present at that meeting, and there was no indication that he agreed to include the recommended comments for the restrictive covenants. The board did not resolve to require the developer to include the planning board's recommendations. The developer therefore did not include the recommendations about the Colosage Drive traffic in the restrictive covenants. The petition takes the recommended requirement of the planning board out of context. The town never mandated the inclusion of this requirement, and the restrictive covenants do not have that in it, and we don't have the authority to impose this requirement now. There are no grounds or authority to restrict the vehicles which can enter Colosage Drive from entering or exiting from Riverwalk. However, our primary goal is to better the community, keep everybody happy, and that's really what our goal is. And to that end, I want to highlight a few specific points, especially with you, Gretchen, in regards to you. I understand there's been a lot of heavy traffic. We're building the house right behind her. Hopefully, we're going to wrap that up in the next few weeks. That's going to dramatically lessen in and out of that gate for you. Also, all of the power line traffic on 64 has been a nightmare. So anybody coming in at a Riverwalk is going to sit for 20 minutes at least going in and out of there. So that's a lot of the community members in Riverwalk, as well as my guys and all the subs that the other homeowners have been using that back gate because they don't want to sit in traffic. So I think, coupling those couple of things, we're going to be getting out of that area of Riverwalk. The power line is going to wrap up. So we're going to be using the front gate a lot more. I think it's worth pointing out just in the development as a whole, when it's built out, it's going to have an additional between 20 and 28 more homes. There's going to be more cars that use the back gate just in general purpose. So that's one point I'd like to make. Additionally, the original development called for 70 homes. That was in 2005 that was approved. Then it got rezoned in 2010 to 58 homes. And then we further reduced that. Now I think the grand total that we'll have in there is about 38. So we've almost cut the density in half as to what the original approved plat was. So I think everybody can agree that's probably a good thing for both watershed and just, general home sites and community. So like I said, our commitment is to foster a positive relationship with the community, ensure the development aligns with everybody's interests. So, to that end, as of yesterday, I told all of my guys just out of, an olive branch, to just stop using the back gate. Just use the front gate. If you got to sit in traffic, do it. We don't want to, cause anybody problems on Palisades Drive. That's not our goal. And I know that, there's going to be a truck or two that comes in or out of there. I can't control what the other homeowner subs do. I can't help, if the homeowners are using it, but we're going to do our best to mitigate this as best we can for just the betterment and happiness of everybody involved. It's important to acknowledge, Riverwalk's faced a lot of challenges through, the past 20 years, pretty much all of which are bad. And I hope that, the work that we've done in the past 4 or 5 months, kind of shows that we're trying to turn this thing around and do the right thing, and better our community in that way. And I'd like to invite anybody that wants to come out and see it, walk the neighborhood, see what we're doing. I'll go with you. We can talk about any issues, but we're going to do our best to mitigate, the burden on Palisades as best we can. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Mhm. Do we have any other public comments? Floor is open. Hearing none, we will move on now to the next item, and that will be to review and approve the agenda. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Thank you. All right. The next item would be to approve the May 15th regular meeting minutes. Do we have any changes, clarifications, or corrections?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is the mayor's report. And I did say I would, kind of address my perspective on the petition that was, submitted and by the people in that area of Mirror Lake. And then I'm going to invite the staff to respond to what has been done up to this point, because this is a situation where our staff and I were aware of those concerns. They've tried to address those concerns, and I'll ask them to do that. I will say this, though. I live in that area. I walk on that road. I run on the road. And in the last week, I've been driving that road, and even before, because we do have the dredging going on, and it's easy for me to go down Calisaja to see what's happening on the dredging. To be quite frank, I've even taken this week a video going down the road. I have not noticed any intense increase in traffic. There have been over the last year and currently people building homes on Calisaja and have built homes. They've redone homes. They've done landscaping, and you have a lot of trucks and vehicles that are coming to do those kind of functions and to try to sort through whether they're going to Riverwalk or to some other, construction site would be, to me, very problematic. I know that people have the right to petition under the Constitution for grievances. Also, we have under the Constitution equal protection and the idea that we need to follow laws and ordinances. I think in this case that our town staff has done everything they can to try to be balanced and follow the ordinances and what's on the book. So with that, I'll turn it over and ask Josh if he'll just do a quick overview of what the staff has done in relation to addressing the concerns with the petition. Would you pull your microphone closer?
Well, from the beginning, when Dustin was looking at purchasing the property, we've met a number of times, went over the requirements of Riverwalk, the kind of the history of Riverwalk, and the use of the main gate at 64 did come up, and, he said that he would use 64 gate for as much as he could as far as the large deliveries in and out, which I think he has done, concrete trucks, material trucks, things like that. But when you're framing a house in, as he started this first house, right off of Palisades Drive, you have 20 trucks in there. You have a lot of folks that are, framing that structure in. I think now it is totally framed in. So now it's kind of pulled back to, a couple of vehicles there internally within Riverwalk. Our inspector, Bobby Henry, is by there daily, looking at the progress, not only with this house, but some of the other land clearing that's going on. I know he's going to be building on a couple other lots he's got permits for, as well as selling some lots to individuals. So I've talked to Gretchen a number of times. I've relayed the comments back and forth with Dustin about the traffic. I think he's done the best he could do in that area. Again, the gate stays closed all the time. He gave our inspector an opener, that way he can get in and out whenever he needs to, which has been helpful. But I've not seen an abundance of traffic in the area, from the construction. And I think a big part, like he said, the construction right now, it's right off, it's the lot that had the house on it originally, if y'all recall. It was torn down in 06, 07, somewhere along in there. That's where the new home is being constructed, which is right in front of the Chizzy's home. I think once they finish that one up and get move internally into the development and start the development, I don't think they'll experience quite the traffic that they're experiencing now. But we have been inspecting that on a regular basis, the buffers, everything else. So I think there's been a good open line of communication. Dustin and I have talked a couple of times over the last few days. He's not wanting to cause any issues, so he's done the best he can do on his end. So going back to the actual approvals, I know some of you guys probably remember back in 05. I know it's been 20 years ago, but Riverwalk has been controversial over the years. I know there's planning board brought, a list of those concerns that they had, and I wasn't here at the time, but I know that some were agreed upon, some were not. I know in 2010, when they came in for the conditional zoning request, and I know Commissioner Dodson brought up that he wanted the requirements that were first approved to be in the covenants. Little did we know that all 11 weren't in there, including this one. But for the majority, those recommendations were in there. I think they had stuck with the covenants that are there now still. So I think, going through it, we obviously can't write a ticket. I talked to the chief. That originally in 05, it was a DOT road. It was gravel. The few years later, the town took it over after the DOT paved it for the town. It's in a lot better shape than it was, in 05. So I feel like that, it can definitely support traffic. Talk to the chief about writing a ticket for a vehicle that's traveling down Palisades Drive, and that's not possible. It's not legal to do that. It's a town street that anyone can be on. So if it had been an approved condition on the 2010 conditional zoning, it would be a zoning citation that we would have to give from our planning and development department, which would be like any other zoning violation. So, but again, that was not a condition. So at this point, I think if everybody just has open line of communication, like we have had up to now, I think it'll be fine.
Okay, all right. Nick Tosco, our town attorney, do you have any comments concerning the issue before we move on?
No, I think Josh summarized it well from a legal perspective. There's nothing that legally binds anything related to traffic on that road, and it is a town street, and therefore it is open to the public. But it sounds like some of the concerns are being addressed outside the legal process.
Okay. Any comments from the board before we continue with the report?
Mr. Mayor, I think the only, as far as I'm concerned, and
trying to reconstruct in my mind what happened originally. It seems to me that when the original concerns of the board were voted on, even though it was a preliminary plat and that sort of thing, the time for the original developer, Mr. Turlington or
Turnkey.
something.
Turnkey.
You know, if he if he wanted to object, then would have been the time. And to say, I think that you know, there's nothing showing that he agreed to that. I don't know that there was a time when he needed to agree to that other than that meeting.
Okay.
So what was there is what was agreed to. Let's kind of.
For him to follow.
Well, no, I don't think that, you know, just because you change developers, you certainly don't change, you don't break the chain of responsibility.
And ownership.
I'm sorry,
And ownership.
or ownership, developers, owners, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it sticks with the land, doesn't stick with the person. So, I mean, obviously, the current gentleman seems to be doing, headed in the right direction, doing what needs to be done. But I
Okay.
still think the onus falls back to that original document. My 2 cents.
And what did the original final document say though? That's the big question.
Well, the original document's what is outlined here with the preliminary subdivision plat. Well, the board reviewed the subdivision. Y'all have read it. All construction traffic for single family construction, as well as any infrastructure construction to be entering Riverwalk subdivision, will use the entrance on US Highway 64 East and not the entrance on Coliseum Drive. Period.
Okay.
There's no ambiguity there. And as I remember, the reason for that was exactly what has occurred with of course, the road was in poorer shape. I mean, it's better shape now.
Yeah.
And we got more people that live down there now. So I still think the original subdivision preliminary plat was approved with those additions, covenants, restrictions, whatever you want to call
Okay. So you're
them. I'm not saying that what the current gentleman is doing is not enough. I mean, maybe it is, but still, it came down to the black and white. Construction traffic goes in off 64.
point taken. Mr. Herfield, would you like to respond?
So I offer a little bit of clarification on that. So as we read it, so I had a little read over this, I dove into this without just making this. So our understanding of what happened in 2005 was that during the preliminary subdivision plat, there was a list of 11 recommendations that the planning board made, I would assume, to the town board in order to approve the preliminary plat. Now, the town planner reported that the developer had agreed to include these restrictive covenants. Whether he did or he didn't, I don't know. But when everything was approved with the restrictive covenants, it wasn't in there. So we have the restrictive covenants now that were approved with the final plat, right? And some of these 11 things are included, such as some of the buffer zones, no docks to be constructed on the Coliseum River. You can't block the Coliseum River. Those items were included in the restrictive covenants, but there's absolutely nothing in there about the Coliseja Drive Road being accessed for construction use. That was omitted. For what reason, then I don't know, but when we look through the restrictive covenants, that's what we
Okay.
found. So
When you're delivering large loads and everything.
Yeah.
You're encouraging the deliverers to bring it in through
Yeah.
64.
We require it because you can't take a truck of that size down Coliseja. They don't want to go there. I don't want, nobody wants them there. So
Okay.
yes, they have to enter through Highway 64.
To your point, I understand where you're coming from. Restricted covenants are something that can be, and our attorney can certainly correct me if I'm wrong. Restricted covenants cannot be applied to external property. And you can't say that people can't drive down Coliseja Drive because you don't control Coliseja Drive.
Correct.
So to put that in a restricted covenant would be of absolutely no value whatsoever. And I can understand why it would not be in a restricted covenant because it's not
I think the
controlling that
recommendation,
property for the homeowners.
yeah, it wasn't in, the recommendation by the planning board was not in regards to the homeowners at all. It was in regards to construction traffic specifically.
Correct.
So.
And that was the development.
And the one thing that I'll say is, when this board approved this, it was approved as a preliminary plat. Preliminary plat did not have these 11 items in it. It was approved as presented without specific mention to these 11 items by the board at the time.
I'm sorry, can that individual please identify himself?
John York, I represent the Riverwalk community. But so when it's in here, I'm trying to find exactly where it is. The approval of the town's approval does not put any conditional additions, things, or reference the 11 recommendations from the planning board. Like it would typically when something is approved by this board, if the planning board makes a recommendation, they will add in that, or y'all as a body will add in those conditions into the approval. And it's not that, there is no reference that the town board required these items to be in the preliminary plat to be approved.
Nick, you wanted to make a comment?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's just what I said before, which is that's correct. These were planning board discussions and recommendations that were made. And the process is provided that it goes to the town board, you all, the board of commissioners, to actually require restricted covenants to be included in the preliminary plat that gets recorded as a final plat. That did not happen, so those are not binding. They do not run with the land. The discussions and recommendations are not included in the preliminary plat itself. So that's correct. While that was recommended, it was not a binding part.
Okay. Nick, could you check your audio? I'm having a little bit of you're getting kind of an echo. Would you repeat what your conclusion was?
Is that audio any better?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to repeat, as was stated before, those recommendations of the planning board or the discussions that occurred in the minutes, planning board, are not legally binding. What's legally binding is if that was included as an item or restricted covenant in the preliminary plat that then gets recorded as a final plat with the register of deeds, would there then be legally binding. But that was not what occurred here. What I understand is that it was a recommendation, a discussion of the planning board. And while it's evidence that that was their intent, it didn't actually attach to the land and become legally binding. The restricted covenants, what's recorded in the register of deeds, that's what attaches and carries on with the land, regardless of the developer. That didn't occur here, so it's not legally binding.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay,
Thank y'all.
All that being said, we're going to do our best to not
Okay.
use it. So try to keep everybody happy.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Somehow we didn't get it, somehow we messed up and didn't get it officially on the recorded plat. And I think he's trying to do the best situation that can be done.
Yeah.
I agree that I think if it's there, it should have been on the recorded plat, but it was not. So we don't have any legal recourse. There's no other way we could enforce it anyway. So I think the developer is doing the best he can. He's understood the situation and he's.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything more we can force him to do.
While I wasn't the mayor and I wasn't on the town board, I was on the planning board at that time. And I remember that whole initial process was very rushed, very confusing. And to be quite frank, as a result of some other things that transpired, especially with our then zoning director and so forth, we had a major shift in the way we
Where we did.
organized government to a town manager form of government at that time. Okay, thank y'all very much. Any more comments? Hearing none, I'll now go over to the commissioners for their reports.
Got a couple.
Brian?
All right, couple things I wanted to report. One, on the good news is the scholarship golf tournament brought to you by the Bryson family is scheduled for September 15th at Coliseum Club, and we're working hard on a meeting monthly on that. Rebecca has been heavily involved in that. We're going to make this even a more successful event than it was last year. And if you recall, last year, we raised about $50,000. Again, thank you to Jim and Mike Bryson. But this year we've got even more plans to expand that. And so you'll be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. So the other thing I wanted to mention then goes to the playground. And unfortunately, we were not selected for the grant that was announced on Friday. It was about June 6th, I think it was. And it's kind of disappointing because we put a lot of effort into that grant process, but what happened, and that's fine. So I'm currently in discussions with our fundraising group. I think if we could get $200,000 more, we would be free and clear. And there's an opportunity for us to get that additional money. And I'll be reporting on that more. We're also working with the playground companies on maybe potentially reducing the scale of the project to make it happen. But I can assure you it's going to happen, and it's going to be huge for Highlands. And I thank this board for supporting it, and as well as the county, and then all the citizens in the town of Highlands for supporting it, because like I said, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of working out these last little details.
Okay. And Commissioner Steele, on behalf of the town, and Commissioner Weller too, we appreciate your work on this. I know you put a lot of work in on this, and it's kind of like when you apply for those grants, sometimes it's like just rolling the dice, and there were a lot of people, groups that wanted money, and it turned out the way it was, but I know we'll move forward. So
Yeah, and I've learned with grants, it's just, there's no rhyme or reason to who gets them. I've learned that in the past. I think some of it has to do with the community we live in, the population and the demographics. I think that has a lot to do with it too, but nonetheless, it's disappointing, but we will prevail.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I was just going to mention along those lines, and 90% of the work's been done by Brian, so I keep getting credit, but it's Brian. I do want to mention though, keep in mind, most people might not realize, for the ones that aren't keeping up with the kind of the score sheet, there's $250,000 committed by the town, $350,000 committed by the county, and $700,000 committed by private donations. So 1.3 million is not too shabby.
No.
Our goal is 1.6. If we get to 1.5, when we talk about reduction, nobody's going to notice it.
Yeah, and let me also say too, we are working with 3 different we started with one playground manufacturer slash designer, and we are now working with our third. So we are getting three different designs from three different companies. All of them are awesome. One of them will prevail. And again, Highlands is going to have a huge asset in the coming 2 years. I can assure you of that. It's just a matter of what direction we go. So we're working hard on it. We'll continue to work hard on it, and we will, again, we will bring this to fruition.
Very good. Thank you. Before I turn it over to a report from our town manager, I forgot one thing that I wanted to follow up on my report. Previously we passed a resolution in opposition to House Bill 765, the American Dream Act, which had provisions that would have eliminated it would have eliminated a lot of our ability to do land use and zoning and so forth, and also opened the door for legal actions against actual elected officials. We thought that that was a clear voice that all the towns in the League of Municipalities responded. We thought it was looking good, except now there is a new bill called Senate Bill 205, swimming pools and housing reforms. And the League of Municipalities indicated that some of the provisions that were in the original Bill 765 have been entered into this bill. And it would, in the league's opinion, weaken planning and give developers tools to easily sue local government. So we'll try to keep track of this as best we can. And I'll be talking to our legislative delegation, saying that our concerns are still there, but you never know what's going to happen in Raleigh. With that.
I have one more comment to make, and I was driving home from work today, and I noticed, like, as of literally today, not yesterday, today, the island that had formed underneath the bridge of Mirror Lake is gone.
Yes.
So I just want to, again, thank everybody that has donated to the Mirror Lake project, and also thank the mayor in working with those at the state level. But that, like, the ugly island that was, that we have watched we've watched it grow for the last probably 5 years, is now officially gone, is now in a big containment bag along Colsada Drive. So it's like finally good to see that thing gone.
Wonderful. Very good. Thank you very much.
And now you can do a cannonball off the Mirror Lake Bridge.
Well, I rode by there yesterday or maybe this morning, and I knew that part of it had been removed.
It's gone.
It's gone now. Good. We can breathe relief. No wetland there. Josh, will you now give us an update from the town manager?
Sure. If you've traveled out 64 toward Cashers, you see the caution light at Little Bear Pen has finally began. It's taken a year and a half to start. Got the lights up. I did talk to the DOT yesterday. They're going to be bringing a drill in next week to try to drill from light to light to get the power supply in. So if that goes well, hopefully within a couple of weeks, they'll have that completed. If that doesn't go well, they'll have to go aerial, which is going to take them some time, which I figure that's probably what will end up with so much rock in that area. So at least it's going forward, and hopefully within the next, 4 to 6 weeks, we'll see that project completed. Also, the town now has a mobile app that is available on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. Depending on your phone, you can download that. There's also a QR code on our website. We've also got some displays at the park and things with the QR code. I think it's going to be really helpful. We'll be able to send out notifications immediately when things happen. The police has their own page on there. The fire has their own page. They can send their own notifications out. The town can send their notifications out with utility issues that we may have. If we have hurricane come through, like we did last fall, we can get quick information out with that app. So I would encourage you to download that app and select all the notifications. And in that way, you won't miss any of those that get sent out. So we're excited about that. The Playhouse, demo bids, should be in next week. So I'll have something to report back, to the board in July. And also Town Hall will be closed Friday, July 4th for Independence Day.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask about the website?
The website is underway. It's going to take longer. They've got, the basic website has been, created. Now it's been sent back to us. Last week I was working back and forth with the company to change some things. So now it's actually going in and going to each page and getting what we need on each page. So, that's going to take a little while longer, to do, but hopefully by fall we'll have that.
Because I noticed on the app, it basically just pulled in a lot of those web pages that we don't like it. So I was a little disappointed that it was.
Yeah, it just links back to what we currently have. So it will link back to
But
the
it'll
new
link back to
website,
something new.
once our new
I was
website.
gonna
I
say-
think the app is really well done, but I think once this expands and we grow a little bit, like with it, I think it's gonna be excellent. Yeah, but like to Amy's point, like we just, once more info gets on it, it'll be great.
Well, and a little more legible, a little more discoverable, I guess.
Yeah.
Friendly, yeah, user friendly.
I don't know, that's what you're working on now.
But
Yeah.
But, so that's what my question was actually, is that we're not gonna have to go and redo the app because
No.
it just links back to the URL of the website. So once we get a website that's decent looking, the app will improve.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. All right. Let us now move on to the consent agenda. Do we have any questions about the consent agenda packet? If not, I would entertain the motion for approval.
So moved.
I had a question about our water plan thing and I guess, I talked to Josh before the meeting and, we're gonna look at that a little bit and it may be something that we want to come back to the board with at some point. Just, I think it's, I didn't realize we did it every year and I couldn't find last year's and I couldn't find the 2001 either. So, I don't know if we do it at the same time every year or what it was, but I couldn't find another one. I just think there are some things in there that I think need to be looked at a little more closely than us just continuing for the last 20 years saying, yeah, okay. You know, this is what it is. For one, I think that, as I mentioned to Josh, I think we have a restriction that we can't not have the water going over that Sequoia Lake Dam. And the plan says we don't have any restriction of that. And I think that was Fish and Wildlife or something, but I think it's something that we need to look into and make sure that we're doing what we need to do, as opposed to just rubber stamping it every year. We need to actually look at it.
Yeah, and I suggested that, Amy Lamar, Rick Green that runs the water plant and I just sit down and go over the questions.
Okay.
That way we better understand it.
So I don't have any problem with addressing it right now. I mean, approving it right now because it's something that we have to do. But I do think it is something that we need to actually look at
Okay.
in a more in-depth way.
So noted. Any other questions or comments?
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. All right, the next item will be a public hearing for the Highlands Town budget for fiscal year 2025 and 26. And I'll turn this over for comments and recommendations from this, excuse me, I'm sorry. First of all, I'll ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Then we are now open and now we will take staff comments and recommendations and I'll turn it over to Josh Ford.
Yes, the fiscal year 2025-26 budget contains no changes since being presented on May 15th. The recommendation is to approve the budget as presented,
Okay,
along with the fee schedule.
okay. Any questions of Mr. Ward?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
We need,
Well,
we need.
we gotta do it. We're gonna do we're gonna go
No,
down.
I'm sorry, we gotta get
Okay,
a closed
all right.
session, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh,
public comment.
oh, public,
comment.
public comment. I'm gonna now open the floor for anyone who would like to make a public comment. If you'll come down to the front, state your name and make your public comment. Hearing that we have no public comment, I'll now move on to the next item. And that would be to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. And then finally, we will have council action. Now,
Now, Brian.
Commissioner Steele.
Well, do you have, does anybody have anything? I'll make a motion, we approve the budgets presented, but I don't know, I want to, so give whoever wants to say anything courtesy.
I'll second it for sake of discussion.
Second,
if there's any.
okay, and then do we have any further discussion or comments?
Including the fee schedule, correct?
Including the. fee
Including the
schedule.
fee schedule, correct?
Correct. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. And let me congratulate and thank Josh Ward, Rebecca Schuler, and all the staff that worked on this budget. This is always a major process that we have to go through every year. And now we will move on to welcoming the town auditors in the coming weeks to start reviewing our financial situation. Okay, the next item will be a public hearing concerning the Unified Development Ordinance, Section 8.3.2, floor area ratio, B1 commercial building restrictions of 1.41. Do I have a motion to open up the public hearing?
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. We now have an open public hearing and Michael Mathis was going to make the staff comments, but he has had a family emergency. So I'll turn it over to our town manager, Josh Ward.
So at the request of the Town Board of Commissioners, the Planning Board met and discussed if Section 8.3.2 floor area ratio of the Unified Development Ordinance should be removed. The Planning Board recommended that Section 8.3.2 of the UDO be removed because UDO already regulates building height, habitable stories, and built upon area. Additionally, they added that if a town is going to have density, it should be along its main street. Additionally, staff recommends that we define habitable space as an area or space occupied by one or more persons for living, eating, or sleeping, including rooftop dining areas, but excluding bathrooms, toilet compartments, closets, halls, storage, or utility spaces, and similar areas. Our attorney drafted this definition and it aligns with North Carolina Building Code. Lastly, staff recommends that we combine habitable stories exclusive of basement and habitable stories exclusive of basement and attic into one section. And there's an example there that is on a use table in 8.3.1. The staff recommendation, whether the proposed ordinance amendments are approved or denied, the motion should include a statement of consistency with the town's community plan.
Okay.
So not only do we have what is here in the yellow, taking out 8.3.2, and then changing the chart there in the building height thing, and that's basically what we want to do, but we're also adding that definition, is that correct?
Correct.
In the definition section 1, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, do we want to have
Well,
public comments and then?
I just want to make sure that,
Yeah.
that it wasn't just the taking out or changing.
Correct.
We're actually adding that definition.
Yeah, and
Correct.
and I have one item that I think is important, and I see it's getting stricken as part of the 1.4:1, but I want to make sure, at least if it's not here, that it's still somewhere, the definition of what an attic is. About, I mean, the framing that comes down to the wall, it can't have a knee wall, it has to come down to the wall, it can only have 50% dormers, et cetera. I think that aspect is important to stay, and I want to make sure it's in somewhere. You know where I'm talking about? Gosh.
No, I do not.
Okay, well, we'll go let me get to tell you which page it's on, if I can.
Of the UDO?
Yeah, and it's in right here. They made the change. Okay, let me go back here. Sorry, the floor area 8.3.2, part of the revision was to get rid of that section.
Right.
But if you look at, when it comes to additional habitable area, it used to be 0.35 square foot of gross floor space based on the lot, could be in an attic. But it says, there was a definition there that said roof rafters shall bear directly on the attic floor system with the exception of dormers whose length shall not exceed more than 50% of the underlying wall structure. And B, there will be no exterior knee walls as part of the habitable area. Those two elements I think need to stay in. Otherwise you could get, you could end up being like a 7 and 12, which is the minimum in B1. You could be a 7 and 12, but then you could have a 4-foot knee wall getting to it, and you're going to end up having very tall walls on Main Street, and you're going to get away from the scale of Highlands, and that has always been a concern of mine. So if you do a flat roof, this resolves it. If it's a flat roof, it's a 2-story building, or it could be a 2.5 by definition, if you're looking at it, typically, because the
Upper
habitable level.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the only reason you can have a flat roof is if it is habitable space. So that would take up your last floor. And obviously you can't have an attic above a open roof. So I was trying to make sure that the scale doesn't get lost. And I think those are the two things that need to remain in order for that to stay.
So instead of taking all of 8.3.2 out, you just do.
Well, I just want to make sure that the definition of attic that has A and B included in it remains. You see what I'm saying? Because we're recommending as part of this that would go away. I mean, part of the recommendation was to get rid of it, but I think the definition of attic, as long, following conditions A and B, I mean, the conditions of what can be in the attic to me is irrelevant. I think,
See, we don't have a definition of attic.
well, I know that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
But we defined it in 8.3.2, but if we get rid of that whole section, there's no definition of attic.
Right. So what your remedy is to define attic, or is it to leave A and B of?
How we accomplish that, all we're doing is putting it in a different area, but same thing, I would refer back to Nick on how we handle defining attic. But I think those two, A and B, are the definition of attic,
necessary. Yeah.
are necessary. Otherwise, the scale could be manipulated to be way too tall for downtown Highlands. It basically could be almost a 3-story building. And then a roof pitch. So that's my recommendation or big thought on it. Do you see what I'm talking about, Nick?
Jeff, would,
Yes, can you, oh, sorry.
if you defined attic.
Yeah, I think you could give a definition of attic.
Definitions, would that affect the residential?
No,
attic
no.
At all?
Commercial attic.
It can be commercial, it can be incidental apartments, it can be whatever. The 35 feet is still the 35 feet.
But you don't see it affecting, I
No,
understand right now we're talking about commercial, but would it affect residential negatively in any way?
no, because this is only B1 anyway. 8.3.2 only applies.
Well, I know, but if you
But if
pull
we
it out
take-
and you put it in as a definition,
Then it-
in the
Well, it
definition
applies to
section.
Well, I think
It goes
definition,
with any attic.
understand.
Fine.
I think attic definition should be earmarked as B1. Within B1. I mean, this could remain
So
8.3.2.
Part of the definition could be
Yeah.
an attic in B1
Correct.
means this.
Because it's the only place where we worry about how the attic's built. It's the only zone in
Right.
all of town. So it just needs to be specific to B1. And keep in mind, we're only talking about B1. We're not talking about B2 or 3. They have different definitions and requirements. And you can't have a flat roof, even if there's a rooftop terrace in B3. You can in B2 and you can in B1. But my whole point about it is we just don't want to lose the definition in B1 of attic. And whether it's a definition or these, basically forget about the 0.35 square feet area, but just say commonly referred to as attic which meets the following conditions, and the A and B are the important elements in order to maintain the architectural scale in town. That's just.
Wouldn't A and B, to your point, wouldn't A and B necessarily preclude any living space?
No, it could be an apartment, it could be an office, it could be whatever in that attic space.
Physically?
Yeah,
If you got roof rafters that are bearing on the.
but if you do a 12 pitch roof, I mean, it's no different than like a 1.5 or a 2.5 story house. You got the roof pitch, you put some dormers, but you can only do up to 50% of a roof line in dormers. So it actually has that architectural element without the scale being blown. Cause you could put in a 40-foot long roof line and put a 38-foot shed dormer on it and you just defeated the purpose of it. So 50% is important. And coming down to the plate line. I mean, we do it all the time on garage apartments, on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think about
I mean, residentially, but that's what I'm talking about. I just don't, what I don't want to see is big 3-story facades.
Yeah.
You know, that's why the definition of rooftop terrace was important because that's an exemption. But you could have had a 3-story wall
with top.
and with a flat roof on top, but if it's a habitable floor, you can't because you can only have 3.
Right.
So that's why that was important. But this, if you keep this in here, then you're not going to end up having a 7 and 12 pitch roof coming down to a 5-foot knee wall. And it looks now like a 3-story building with a shallow roof. That was my point. That's why I think that's extremely important to keep in order to keep that scale of Highlands.
Okay. And Nick, you were about to respond?
Yeah, so, couple things. One is, can you all hear me okay? I changed my mic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Couple of things. One is that what is in 8.3.2, that's not a definition, those are standards that apply to an attic that is in a 3rd level. So those are conditions or standards. So what we could do, if this is what I'm hearing, it's correct that attic is not defined in the UDO. So we could take the North Carolina Building Code definition, which is a very straightforward definition about what an attic is. We can put that in, and then we can change this rather than just completely wiping out 8.3.2. We could change it to say attic conditions or attic standards, and then say an attic shall comply with the following conditions A and B. If that would meet what is it you're going for.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Sounds
exactly,
like it what you
that's
wanna
what we
do.
need to do. And in reality, if you think about it, even from an attic definition, that definition does apply to the entire business district. So it surely should be B1, B2, B3, doesn't matter, because you
Right.
still don't want that,
Right.
that additional floor that's allowed, just making the sidewall taller with a shallow roof. So, because when you get into B3, keep in mind that there you can have a 4 and 12 pitch roof. B1 and B2, you can have a 7 and 12 minimum. So you're talking about a different animal if you all of a sudden can do that. This forces you to do a steeper pitch roof with dormers for that level. So it's important to keep that. All I'm saying is A and B need to be somewhere, somehow defining it for an attic. So.
Okay, Nick and Josh. I'm about to ask for public comment, but now we have this change that has been proposed. How do we proceed? Where are we on making this change, incorporating it, and so forth?
I mean, I would recommend, I don't know what Josh thinks, but I would recommend that we go back and draft a new text amendment that meets these things and make sure we check to see how this is all gonna be implicated throughout, and then bring it back at the next one, unless there's a great sense of urgency.
I don't think there's any urgency, so.
Okay.
No, not really. I mean, with the 21 months.
So what, Nick, what you're saying is we could continue with the hearing, delay taking action until this change has been made and reviewed at the next meeting.
Correct. You can take public hearing, public comment on it.
Now.
Yeah, and then you can continue it to a date certain being the next regular meeting, and then we can bring a new draft for
What a
approval.
thought. Okay. All right. So let's just move on then to opening it up for any public comment or reaction to what has been discussed or what has, been proposed related to the public hearing. So I'll open it up now for any public comment. No, whoa. Please come up to the front.
I can't hear.
Yeah.
I thought it was very clear, you said the first sentence. I think it's a great idea, it's correct, you don't want Main Street suddenly look like any other place. I understand what you're saying, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
And this is Alice Nelson. All right. Any other comment? Hearing none, I would then move, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So motion. I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand saying aye.
Aye.
All right, and with that, we will delay any final action until that amendment has been made at the next board meeting.
I think that's great.
Nick, is that where we should be?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Can we,
very
can
good.
we get a vote to continue it to the
Make a
next?
motion to continue to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, so moved. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. We'll do that. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks.
Okay, our next item.
Rebecca needs to add something at the budget. She's on.
So if you saw in last month's agenda packet, there was the budget ordinance. There was the fee schedule, but there was also a pay scale. We have to adopt that pay scale as well with the budget. That was the one showing the 3%. I have it. If Gibby can show me how, or let me share my screen. I have it to show you, but it was in last month's packet as well.
The COLA.
Yes.
So we have to
Let me show you really quick.
But because it was already written in the budget that was. all
Right.
Yes. It's this form.
It was in the budget packet though.
It was last month. I don't think it made it this month in the agenda packet.
Oh, it wasn't in the packet, so, okay.
Yeah, I don't, Gibby said it wasn't in there, so.
So
So,
we have to do that separately?
I mean, it could have been done with the budget as long as you acknowledge that you've seen it and you agreed with it. It has to be separate, yes. The new auditor likes to have the ordinance,
Then
the pay scale, and the fee study.
I make a motion to approve that form, which we have reviewed prior.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, that's a motion.
okay, any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, our next item will be item 11. It's 628 North Fifth Street encroachment request. Mr. Tim Norwood. Tim?
Mayor, Commissioners.
Would you pull that? Yeah, there you go.
Mayor, Commissioners, how are you?
Good.
I am a new summer resident here, purchased a house at 628 North Fifth Street last October. And we are enjoying the height of happiness. And we certainly have enjoyed the weather here. We're from South Carolina and delighted to be here. What we're asking for is we've fenced our entire yard that we y'all, if y'all familiar with the property, it's right on Mill Creek. So we've fenced our yard around 3/4 of the perimeter, and we're asking for an encroachment permit or permission to add a gate at the front corner of our house.
Okay. And Josh, you want to make a comment? Because I've gone by there and your fence is offset to where our right of way basically is clear
Yes, sir.
up to that one little corner point.
Correct.
And is that not?
So the right of way goes up to the edge of the house right here. So he has planted some trees here in this area. And it leaves just a little space between the house and the arborvitaes that are planted there. I think where a dog could get out. They want to put a small gate there. He has a picture of what he would like to have there. And this would be basically a request for an encroachment agreement. He knows that sewer line runs through there. If we ever have to get in there to do any work, we may have to tear some of these bushes and trees out along with the gate, depending on what occurs.
And I'd be glad to do a hold harmless agreement, whatever.
And that's what would need to happen. The board agrees to allow him to put the gate. I would ask that Nick prepare an encroachment agreement for him to sign.
As long as you're understanding of that, I don't have a problem with it like this.
think Lamar has also looked at it as well.
It's very deceptive how far back the property line is into those properties.
It
I mean, the
is.
sidewalk's nowhere near the property line.
Yeah.
It's like further down, I mean, where that one house just got purchased, the small one, and it's 20 feet off the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's 24 actually. I think it's
Yeah, it's a lot of right of way in people's front yards. that
It
they don't
is a lot
realize
of
it's,
right of
way. Yeah.
I have no issue with it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't have an issue with it either.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a small encroachment and that kind of gate could come out pretty easily if we
Yeah.
actually had to get an excavator in there
Yeah.
to yank it out.
Yes.
I mean, yeah,
well, I'll entertain a
I mean, I
motion.
don't think it would slow us down if we needed to get to
No.
the sewer line. That's the big deal.
So I would entertain a motion for approval with the condition of an encroachment agreement.
Yeah, an encroachment agreement approved by town manager and Nick Tosca.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Number 12, Visitor Center Building Lease Discussion. I know that we had our town attorney come up with a 1-year lease. It has been shared with the Chamber of Commerce. I know Kay McCann is here tonight. And I'd invite her to come and make any comments.
In our current chamber. Very much.
Yes, she is.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Kay.
Hey,
Hey, guys. The board is happy to sign the lease that was sent. Josh got that to me, I think, last week. And, but it needs dates on it,
okay,
dates and a notary.
okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the lease then.
With what dates?
With what dates though?
The
Starting,
date that, excuse me, the effective date of the lease is the date of the last signature. So once both signatures are made, that will be official at that point.
There you go.
okay,
Okay,
very good.
I'll make a motion to approve the lease from the date of the last signature until 2100.
Thank you, Brian.
With the exception of the last part, I make a motion, I second that
Okay,
for 1 year.
for 1 year. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, signify by saying aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we are pleased to provide the town with $40,000 from the occupants tax receipts to be used by the town of Highlands for landscaping expenses. The funding is part of our beautification campaign started in 2021. During this ongoing campaign, we have been able to provide downtown hanging baskets, upgrades to 2 planting areas downtown, landscaping at the Welcome Center, which is also one of our main entrances into town, and new landscaping at the town dog park. We look forward to supporting the town in your efforts to keep Highlands a beautiful place for residents, visitors, and businesses. And I have let Josh know that the date on this check is actually April of this year, because at that point we thought we had an agreement and we wrote the check.
We did too.
It's bent in half because it's been in my purse at each meeting, but I'm very happy to give this to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kay.
Thanks, Kay.
Appreciate it.
Who wants the check?
Josh will take it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item will be the Boys and Girls Club presentation. I know Mike Kistner is here to do the presentation, and Carmen Waite, the director of the Boys and Girls Club, will also be joining. Thank y'all for coming.
Yeah. Well, terrific. Thank you, Mayor Taylor. On behalf of the Boys and Girls Club of the Plateau and Carmen Wade, who is here tonight, and you'll hear from her in a little bit, we want to thank the board for giving this opportunity to us to present what we truly believe is a remarkable legacy opportunity for the town. And not only for the town, but for the parents in this town, and most importantly, for the children in this town. I think this could be potentially, again, a major event for the town. For those of you here who have not been to visit a Boys and Girls Club, we have one, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, a new one here in Highlands. Carmen will sort of go through the history of the club and on the plateau, but we have one here in Highlands, and there is one in Cashers. And if you haven't had a chance to visit one of these clubs, I would strongly urge you to do so. It will make your day. When you can see the physical campus that has been built, it's beautiful. When you get a chance to tour the facility, and certainly Carmen and I can make arrangements for anybody that would care to tour either facility. If you do that, you can see the kids, you can see the smiles on their faces. You can see the significance of them, children that would never have an opportunity to be a member of a club, but to see the opportunity presented to them to have that distinction of being a member, to watch the staff work with these kids is incredible. To see firsthand the academic programs, the development programs that occur there every day, it is truly, truly special. So again, we would love for any of you that would be interested to please come tour one or both of the facilities. Again, it would make your day. Again, when you see it and you can appreciate, some people don't fully understand what the Boys and Girls Club is, and Carmen will go through and explain that to you. It is far, far more than simply a supplemental child care after school kind of facility. We're not babysitters, and you will see we are affecting lives of children in very significant ways. So just a touch of history before I give it to Carmen. A little less than 2 years ago, the club embarked on a mission to establish a campus here in Highlands. At that point in time, we were busing our Highlands children to Cashers every day. And, you know, you do what you need to do to take care of the children at that point in time, and busing was the only solution we really had. But I think we all agree that that's not an ideal long-term solution. The club board determined that we needed our own Highlands campus. It was important enough for our kids to have their own campus. And thanks to some very generous supporters in the community, thanks to Tom Neal and the hospital for providing some unoccupied office space at the hospital, which allowed us to open up the facility. We had to renovate it a bit to make it club ready. But that we were able to get that club up and running in less than 2 years. And a credit goes to Carmen and her staff. For the incredible she did. So all that being said, it was great to have that space. It was the lease space, and it served its purpose and is serving its purpose today. But the lease space will not accommodate the anticipated growth that we're going to see in the club. We really need for this community to have its own campus. And we'll talk a little bit about our idea of how to work together to accomplish that. But the thought is we could mirror one of the facilities that is on the Cashers campus already, the Teen Center, which is newly open and is magnificent. It's wonderful for all of the teens. And what was significant of that, and we'll have that same experience here in Highlands, is as these kids age up and out of sort of the elementary middle school period, they need to have a place to go. We need to provide the teens a healthy environment for them in after school and in camps. But we would sort of, and we'll have some renderings to show you of what our concept and what our idea is. But with that, I'll sort of have a little background. I'll turn it over to Carmen Waite, and she can explain a little bit more. If we get some slides. It's over there. Are they there? Yep.
Great. Yeah, you can go ahead and turn to the first. First of all, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, great, great. The first thing I just kind of wanted to talk about is a little bit of our history. We started in 2014. If you've been in Cashiers, there's a little community center that we now have the thrift store in. It's a little 2-room classroom with a old-fashioned gym upstairs. I was a volunteer back there, and if it rained, we just were a mess because because there just wasn't enough space for all the kids that we served. And then thankfully in 2019, the board of directors decided to do a campaign to build a standalone club that we would own. And of course, what happened right after 2019 was so we were fundraising all through COVID, but we were successful in fundraising the funds in 2021, and we started construction, and we opened the club in April of 2022. Then in 2023, we kind of had two simultaneous things going on. We were fundraising for a teen club, but we also really saw the need that we needed to have here in Highlands. So we fundraised for Highlands campaign. And I do want to kind of correct Mike a little bit. We started fundraising for the Highlands location we signed the lease in November of 2023, and we opened in August of 2024. So it was pretty remarkable. Well, also it was remarkable. We opened just in time for Helene, and we're able to stay open during the storm and for the essential workers. Tom was really, what are we going to do? Because our staff can't, they need to stay here because of the storm. And so we were able to watch their kids so they could go to work. So I've already shared that open 2024. And then this summer, just a couple of weeks ago, we opened the teen club to serve teens, middle school and high school in Cashiers, and about 10% of those are Highlands residents, kids that are being bused over there. The reason I wanted to share this level of detail is I think you can see how quickly we've been able to both fundraise and scale to serve the youth and teens of the community. I think we have the ability and capability to do so. I also want to let you know that we're a very professional organization. We're backed by the Boys and Girls Clubs of America that has over 5,200 clubs. What I like about the organization as a whole is that it's kind of a little like a franchise. We have to comply with the most stringent safety standards, quality of programming, but each club is its own 501c, so we're able to tailor our programs to the special needs of our community. Obviously, a club here in Highlands has a very different need than one in Bronx, New York, for example. But Boys and Girls Clubs of America overall is found to be a top 10 charitable organization by Forbes. So I think that says a lot about us. In addition, our club here, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Spacho, our organizations were recognized by Boys and Girls Club of America of a top 20 clubs in the country out of 5,200. So that's something to be very, very proud of in our little hamlet. In addition, our Read to Learn program, which is a one-on-one tutoring program that we started last year, was recognized by Boys and Girls Clubs as the best educational program in North Carolina. So we So we had a little rocky start due to some fire marshal issues, but we got open this fall, and we were seeing, I think as a result, we got a little slower start. We had 50 registered members, and we were seeing an average attendance about 20, which is pretty average. We usually see about half our registered members on any given day. But already this summer, we're already at capacity. We have over 100 registered members coming to summer camp, and we have 45 out of 50. We're kind of like the airlines. We can't always get 100% full capacity because we can't exceed our our building capacity, but we're really excited to be able to provide that level of service here in Highlands. I can tell you the need is great here, and not only just for what we offer during after school, but I was talking to one of the mothers at our open house. Both she and the grandmother work here on Highlands, but there is absolutely no place for them to take their kids. We provide from 7:30 in the morning till 6 at night, free summer camp for our kids. And she was saying in Franklin, all they could find was a 2-day-a-week camp that was charging $110 a week. And then if you were doing any extra activities like going to the pool, you had to pay for that separate. So, it really, I like to say that we provide a 5-star after school and summer school camp for free. And I'd be proud and privileged. A lot of our donors send their grandchildren there for summer camp. It's a really incredible program where they get to do a lot of wonderful activities, including go to see Lester at the pool. So we're very, very grateful for that. We do have and we also, in addition to being full here, we do have a waiting list for that 3rd through 6th grade age groups. I think as you kind of get past, I think we have more options for the younger kids here through a lot of various origins, but as the kids age out, there's a lot of need. And then, of course, we're full now and we anticipating be full already. So we're eager, we wanted to get this location started at the hospital because we knew how great the need was, and we're eager to expand and be able to provide more space. Currently, next slide. All right. 322 students are at K through 12 just at Highlands School, and that doesn't count kids homeschool or kids that are further afield. 135 of them are K through 4th grade, 60 are middle, and 115 are teens. And I do want to emphasize, like I said, that there's a lot of great programs for younger kids, but as they get older, there's less need. And I'm just going to point to you to emphasize that this picture that's on the right. So I just went to the presentation and looked for pictures of just the things we did last week at summer camp because we've only been open for a week and a half. But that is our teens. They went to the hospital. They did an all-day workforce where they learned about all the careers in the medical field. And then they made that picture thanking the EMS workers for all that they do. So these are the types of programs that we do, both fun activities, but also career exploration, and also giving back to our community. Our kids pick up trash on the sides of the roads. They volunteer at the Humane Society. It's a culture of giving back to the community as well. And also, as Mike said, we're not a child care organization. We're a youth development organization. We want to nurture their minds, bodies, and souls, and we know our kids need all of those addressed. We use a very strong evidence-based program called the Formula of Impact that really focuses, it takes our youth and teens, gives them high quality experiences, and we're very focused on very key outcomes. And those are specifically academic success. All our kids do homework help, and we have 3 levels from regular homework help to kids that small group tutoring to the Read to Learn program where we do one-on-one tutoring. We also are very concerned about health and well-being, so a lot of physical exercise, nutrition. When we feed them snack, we don't have snack, we have a snacktivity where they learn about good nutrition and good health. We have a garden both in Highlands and Cashers that the kids get to grow, and then they prepare foods and dishes, and we serve those what we get from the garden as their snack. They do character and citizenship programs. That's very important to us. As I mentioned, giving back to the community. And then for our older teens, life and workforce resilience is really important, preparing them for their futures, regardless of their course. So what we're proposing is even with having that great space at the hospital, the Boys and Girls Club of the Plateau provides the transportation from the school to the hospital. Our other feeder schools, they bus them, but not because Highland School isn't the best partner ever, but for them with the routes that they would do, it would take from the town of Highlands till 4:30 in the afternoon just to get to the hospital. So location is key here in the mountains. We all know it. We just heard somebody talking about traffic here in our little town. So we would love to be located more centrally, where we could, go to the library, participate in other Highlands biological other activities. So we're proposing being located on the recreation land, what was called the Hobbs House.
Houston House.
Houston House. Thank you for correcting me. The first is kind of a look at what we would think the outside of the building would look like. The second is just kind of to give you an idea of what we would be proposing as far as a layout with some office space for staff, and then 6 classrooms, an art room, and a kitchen. We think based on the speed of which we're growing and really being able to support the teens that we would most likely retain the location that we currently have at the hospital and use that for our teenagers. And then the last one is just kind of an idea of how it would sit on the Houston House property with the club facing the back parking lot of the rec center, and then having a covered pavilion for sports next to it.
Thanks, Carmen. Just the last slide. Can you get the, oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Carmen. Just in the last slide, hop it up there.
No.
Should be one more. Other way. There we go. There we go. That's all right. So what we wanted to just put out to the board is sort of what we think could be a vision of how the club and the town could work together. Some sort of a public-private partnership where we could bring permanent club facility to Highlands. And we've had some conversations with Mayor Taylor and Josh, and I think Brian and Joe and others about just some possibilities. And what, as Carmen mentioned, it was thrown sort of to us that we might have the possibility of some land available at the rec center. And as you all know that live here, land is incredibly expensive, and it would be a significant financial challenge to the club if we had to go acquire it and purchase it. First, there's very little here, and what's here is expensive. So what our idea is, if we could get the town to provide the available land that's currently being underutilized at the rec center, provide that to the club would then build the building using mostly private funds, but perhaps we'd get some public support with some funding. As Carmen mentioned, the club would spearhead the fundraising efforts for the private part of the funding. The club building would be owned by the town. I think it would be necessary that it's owned by the town. We're okay with that. The town would then, of course, lease the land and the building to the club for a nominal fee. That's what we would ask and what we would hope. The club, of course, would take all the burden of running this thing off of the town. The club would assume 100% of the responsibility for operating the club within the standards necessary for Boys and Girls Clubs. And so that's what we'd like for the board to consider. Again, as Carmen mentioned, the location would be terrific. We have other facilities, obviously, at the rec center. As Carmen mentioned, we're close to the library, the biological. It would be, we think, a terrific, again, as I said at the beginning, legacy opportunity that would long live and benefit this town long after all of us. And so that's the ask that we bring to the board, to give that some consideration. Obviously, we're receptive to tweaking and modifications as necessary, but we thought this might be a good starting point to have some conversations about getting a permanent Boys and Girls Club to Highlands.
Okay.
So again,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
And let me say
questions?
this, Josh and I went and looked at your fantastic operation and facility and cashers. And, as the mayor, I just think that this is an investment in this community, in our young people. And, I was really delighted to hear this isn't just after school. This is a full program for helping these young people develop their full potential. And it goes hand in hand with any educational program or any kind of social program we're trying to do is to support and nurture young people. So I'm excited about the possibility. I see it as a partnership because we do have a lot of things that our rec department that could tie into
Correct.
this whole program. And then you'd bring a lot to our after school and especially with the Houston house, after COVID, we just it was dilapidated, failing. We had to remove it. We haven't been able to really get a vibrant, program for young people on that site. So I think this is an exciting possibility.
We had just a couple comments real
Okay.
quick that some people might not know. First off, I had the opportunity to tour that facility 2 times, and it's really, really impressive what you all have done. And the second thing I want to mention is, and this is what probably nobody knows, is what the Boys and Girls Club has done for Highlands in terms of fundraising for the playground. They actually decided to postpone some of their fundraising in order for us to fundraise money for the playground. And so Mitzi, I know you're back there. Mr. Kistner, like you guys are probably responsible for about 30% of the money raised for the Highlands playground. So I thank you guys for that. And I mean, again, I guess one is I can't personally think of a better return on investment of that land, that we have at the rec park, what used to be the Houston house. Then the last thing I wanted to mention was, a couple of years ago, and Eric, you were on the recreation committee with me. We had Paul Schmidt do that rendition of a youth center. So I think we're all on the same board, or we're all on the same page as where we're going with that land. And I think this is just a outstanding opportunity to partner with another organization. So thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I will say is, so like through the last couple of 2 years or 3 years that I've been fundraising for the playground, is I carried this big foam board, probably what's a foam board, Jeff, like 2x3 or whatever?
Yeah.
Could fit it under my arm, and it was a master plan for the recreation park, and that was one of the selling points to it, is like having a master plan of what that whole area could look like. And part of it was the potential location of the Boys and Girls Club and how the playground and the swimming pool and the rec center and everything, and the tennis courts, paddleboard, how all that could work together. And that was a major component of selling that playground. So,
yeah. And I would say this, and Mitzi, I'm glad you brought up after school, not knowing that that's just not what y'all are limited to doing. But, we have a lot of needs in this community. Housing, for example, and I know some people think I'm kind of ambivalent saying we can't do anything. That's an overwhelming issue. Childcare, after school care.
mm-hmm.
That is something that I think is manageable. It can be done. We've got committed people in this community working on it now. And can the town do infant care and stuff like that? No, we're not in that business. But with the rec facility and partnerships addressing after school and summer programs and all of the things that our children need, that's something we can solve and address, realistically make progress on that in a short period of time. So go ahead.
Sissy wants to make a comment.
Go ahead, Sissy. Come forward, Chief.
I'm feeling very powerful, certain rotated.
Come forward.
settings.
Where-
So, in one of the pictures, I won't disclose which one of the young boys in that picture was one of our officer sons who's with that program. So for us, that's huge also at, us workers that come from Franklin or Baxter, Reagan County. And maybe they have a wife or a husband that works up here, so they're able to put this little voice that can go to them. So that's huge.
Thank you.
I went to the housing summit that Southwestern put on, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. And one of the things that they were talking, it was specifically for housing, but one of the things that they were talking about is the importance of partnerships, that nobody can do it by themselves. They also said that if all the EDCs or economic development things in all of the western counties, west of Asheville and everything else, the three major things that they needed was housing, in no particular order, housing, broadband, and childcare.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you're not child care, actually you're advanced care or advancement of child, but it's the type of thing that as a partnership, because nobody is going to be able to do it alone. I mean, we couldn't afford what Paul rendered, gave us a rendering from. The town itself couldn't afford that, but partnerships is the way we have to go for these things. Nobody can do it alone. But that was one of the three top things that every county in the western part of North Carolina and probably the entire state, but we were just talking about Southwest here, we're struggling with is housing, broadband to everybody, and childcare. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And we were talking about doing something like that at the Houston
Anybody, yeah.
place anyway. We just couldn't afford to do it by ourselves. And y'all can't afford to do it by yourself.
Exactly, exactly. That's why when we first started talking about this, it just seemed like a perfect
Perfect
marriage, a win-win. The town wins, we win.
And most of all, our young people.
And our kids win. Yeah. And I wish there are so many things that the club does. We could be here for a very, very long time, but I think it's the little things that, what the club does for single parents who work, and they make sure the homework is done for the kids in the club. So when the mom or the dad, the single parent comes home from work, the homework's done for them. Talk about all the different things we did. We were blown away. They had a donor support party here a couple of weeks ago, and they had a gentleman, I think it was from Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
He was from Georgia Tech, and he was a propulsion engineer, I think. And one of the things he volunteered, and one of the things they did is his mission was to help kids with math and science, expose them to that. And he had he launched rockets, and he had the kids understand propulsion and how rockets work. And he had a contest for them, a little bit like Elon Musk and SpaceX. The contest was they would launch their rocket from a pad. The winner was the one that could get the rocket to come back and land closest to the pad. But it's, they do Odyssey of the Mind. They do so many things for these kids. It is incredible. And that's why, we say it's somewhat of a disservice that it's, childcare. It's so much more. And, for those of you here, they track and measure the performance of what they do. So whether it's reading at grade level or graduation rates or whatever, it's a very professionally run. It is a very financially sound organization. And so again, any more questions are welcome, but we don't want to take any more time.
Mr. Mayor, I'd say let's move this forward. And what I would propose is that maybe at our next meeting, we have a workshop with the board talking about how we can form maybe a partnership work group of community leaders, folks here on this board, town staff, your representatives, and really start a process of moving forward with crystallizing this concept and everything to where we can make this a reality.
Well, I think, yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna say, I'm 100% behind it in principle. There's a lot of details to work out. As
Sure.
you know, that's why we're gonna start talking about it. Look forward to doing that, but I want to do the rocket class.
What, what?
I want to do the rocket exit.
Yeah.
Thank
No, I
y'all
think
very
it's
much.
fantastic.
You're
Yeah,
overqualified.
For the children at heart, we can,
Yeah, exactly.
I do have a few copies of the drawings or the presentation. Everybody wants back.
If you
Yeah, I don't
leave them
like
with,
that.
yeah. Would it be possible to send a PDF or to Josh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I
That'd be
was
good.
just wanting to see it.
I'd like to see what that is.
Distribute.
Thank you, Carmen. Appreciate it. Okay, our next item will be the employee parking restrictions. Michael Mathis, like I said, could not make it tonight. So I'm going to ask Josh to kind of take the lead on this item.
So at the request of the Town Board of Commissioners, the Planning Board met and discussed whether the downtown business district parking map should be revised. The Planning Board made 5 changes to the map. The pictures are on the left are existing. The pictures on the right are what the Planning Board is proposing. Number 1, first, the board recommended changing the employee restricted parking along the south side of Main Street from 2nd Street to 1st Street to unregulated parking. And Jeff, this is down toward Helen's
In front of my office.
in front of your office. And you had brought this up the last time that it was,
Yeah, I mean, we're
last
required
meeting
to have our own
was employed.
parking. It's B3. We have to have our own parking on
Right.
premise. It's, I mean, I can't argue against it.
You're saying that keeping it as it is or what?
No, about changing it to that.
Okay.
so it's
Making it so-
employee
Making it
restricted
restricted.
currently, but it would go to unrestricted.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
And this needs to be something I think we review every 2 or 3 years anyway. And if things change and parking changes or sidewalks change or whatever on the other side of the street, then you may look at it differently, but for now,
And that change on 4th Street over in front of Town Hall, if you remember at our last meeting, there was a concern about the parallel parking and business people saying, we don't want parallel parking. We want to
yeah,
possibly keep that diagonal so we can get more customers or have our customers there. To me, that's the rationale here with those storefronts too. But hopefully this gives flexibility to the employee parking and at the same time enhance the customer parking for the downtown businesses.
So number 2, next, the board recommended changing the unregulated parking along the north side of Oak Street from the end of the Playhouse down to North 4th Street to employee restricted parking,
All right.
which is what Commissioner Patterson had brought up
Okay.
as a concern. Next, the board recommended changing the unregulated parking spaces along the east side of North 4th Street from unregulated to employee restricted parking.
let me figure out where I am now.
That would be across from Town Hall.
Across from Town Hall.
So that's becoming restricted?
So become restricted. Yes, it's currently
Customer
unrestricted
parking.
now across from Town Hall down to Pine Street. So it would become restricted. So
Yeah.
restricted.
Okay,
So
that's kind of.
customers would be parking
Yeah.
in front of businesses.
Oh, I see. That's what's there
Yeah.
now and this is.
What I was referring
Got it,
to.
got it.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out which way's north here.
yeah.
So that's, B1 down through there, and there's businesses there, so.
Yeah, right in front of all those businesses.
Yeah, that don't have parking.
I
Right.
didn't
You're not
realize that.
required
wasn't-
to.
I honestly did not realize that one was not restricted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
when
know.
I looked at the map, I said, why in the world is this employee park
Yeah.
or unrestricted?
Next, the board recommended changing the unregulated parking spaces on the north side of Spring Street from the EV charging station to South 4th Street to employee restricted.
That's the 4 spaces by the Ugly Dove. On the,
Wait, say it again. Now
So the space is right on Spring Street beside the Ugly Dog.
Yeah, it's the 4 spaces
Okay,
right
yeah.
next to the doghouse.
Yeah.
But there's a
Going
charging,
up the hill.
Yeah, there's
There's a
4
charging
spaces and then the
station right
EV
there.
charging station.
Right.
Yeah.
Just restricting those.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, those should be.
I didn't realize they were unrestricted.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah, that one I do, but
And lastly, the board recommended that the town board work with the daycare at the Episcopal Church to identify 2 time-restricted parking spaces that would only be used for child drop-off and pickup. The daycare is asking that no one be allowed to park in these spaces from 7:30 to 7:30 a.m., 9 a.m., and from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, and that's drop off and pick up right behind the Episcopal Church there.
Yeah.
Gets congested in the morning and the afternoon. I talked to Michael about this, and it's misstated on this little yellow bubble. It says 7 a.m. to 9, so it's 7:30 to 9. But we talked about this. At first, I thought a 15-minute parking would be better, but then really during the middle of the day and on the weekend, it doesn't need to be restricted. So there would need to be some type of special signage put there.
How enforceable is that? I mean, that just seems very odd to me that, even the 15-minute parking.
I think that.
You write tickets for the 15-minute parking, correct?
Right, obviously, it follows posted with a new reg sign and, it's in the ordinance state, it's no different than the blue one.
The difficult time will be the afternoon time, right? Because 7:30 to 9, most businesses aren't open anyway.
Correct.
It would just be not
Yeah.
allowing employees to park there, okay? So you may want to just make that employee restricted. That one spot there, those 2.
Well, I think that would, no, because it's more for just general public too.
Yeah, and you notice
It's not just general public.
somebody just parking there, leaving the car.
I know, that's what I mean, but the general public typically is general public because they're going to the shops and they don't open till 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going about the morning.
You don't have to worry about the morning, it's the afternoon.
Right, but it's,
But employees come by 9:30 in the morning.
Sure.
yeah,
That's all
but they're
I'm
not
saying.
parking there. It's just so, it's so like parents. can
Well,
get-
they're
get-
parking there now.
Well, yeah, but it's so parents can get there and pick up their kids in the afternoon. and not
Right,
have
I understand.
to park
I'm
there.
just saying, if you made it restricted to non-employee parking, then you would have half of your people who are using, or basically all the people that are using it now no longer use it now. And then you wouldn't have the afternoon thing unless the.
so I do agree that the morning slot doesn't really,
Doesn't matter.
not really. I
Yeah.
mean, except on 4th of July, and that won't matter anyway.
Yeah.
They're not dropping them off that day, but as far as the afternoon, couldn't it be as simple as, child drop off?
Yeah.
No parking between
Right,
these out periods, 3:30 to
3:30
5:30,
to 5:30.
Monday through Friday, done.
yeah.
A sign in front of each spot, done.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's unrestricted the rest of the time. But somebody parks there for the whole time at 3:30 to 5:30 and they're working at a shop somewhere, they get a ticket. But it is a problem. I mean, I'm down that road a lot of you all are, but when they try and drop kids off,
Oh,
pick
yeah.
up kids behind that church, it's,
Yeah.
and that's a church with no parking lot.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like the Methodist church that have parking, so, and drop off.
So the modification would be just to have the sign, no parking between 3:30 and 5:30, Monday
Mhm.
through Friday.
Yeah.
Child drop off.
Child drop off
Or pick
only,
up.
whatever,
Child pick up.
however it's worded.
Well, I mean, I think you put both times there just because otherwise somebody could
Yeah.
come and park there.
Yeah, so I think we're talking about 2 different things. One is the restricted, and then that would probably require something specific just for those 2 spots
Yeah.
as a,
That's a weirdo.
As an ordinance
Yeah, and
change.
it'd have to be a new, a new color and a new description, because right now, the proposed map, it says 15-minute. Well, it doesn't need to be 15 minutes, so it would need to be a different color and say like daycare drop off or something like that. So, and then install the signs. Yeah. Simple enough.
I'd say something about planning board, and we discussed that also about 2 kids at HGCPC. The morning time slots are also get fairly congested at certain times of the year. So, the church has morning prayer there, 5 days a week, I believe. And so certain times, just having something there in the morning would be helpful
Yeah.
for us to drive home.
I don't mind it being restricted both of those time slots personally, but
So I don't either.
I think the same.
I
Just
don't
make
either. I
both the
just-
time slots.
I just kind of assumed
Yeah.
that the morning.
So did I. I didn't know about that.
Before, but I didn't either of the morning.
Yeah, well, you drop them off, so yeah.
We are gonna strike the ones that are on Main Street in front of the Episcopal Church, aren't we, at some point? I mean, people can't quite figure out how to park there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lamar and I have talked about that, and actually, I think we're gonna have some striping done. Lamar, is that on the schedule to be striped? We discussed it, and because it's probably gonna take a couple of parallel and a couple of angles, so. Yeah.
You will have some
We
angle
will
parking
get,
there.
we will get.
Okay,
get
I'm
to
just
that.
saying, I've seen
Continuation
this
of what you did.
weirdo, people not quite
We can
knowing
go back
how
historically.
exactly to do it anymore,
Yeah.
like it used to be, or is it parallel now, or whatever?
Yeah, because there was several angled and then it got too narrow, so then it went to parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got the aerials that show all that
Okay.
in the past.
So we could work on coming up with a different color and a statement for that. I will say that this proposed map does add the EV stations that the chamber installed.
Yeah.
On South Third and Oak. They had not been put on the map, so Carlton included those on this proposal. And the other thing that I'll bring up is that we'd had the discussion with all of the town vehicles, whether it be, the admin vehicles, the planning and development vehicles, the police department vehicles behind town hall, behind the police department, along with hot wires vehicles that they have the permission to park there at the head end. The recommendation from staff would be that whole parking lot behind town hall be town employee only. We have some there now along the back, but when you really go by and look in the morning, by the time we park there, the vehicles are there, it's full. And then when chief has training, she has several, police department vehicles parked back there every day, but when she has training, the entire parking lot is full behind, the police department. So that would be another recommendation.
So you're leaving the ones at the police department themselves as, other than the, I don't know, 2 or 3 that are, I think there's 2 handicapped and 2 reserved for the police in front of the building.
How many do you have in front, chief, that? Yes.
And then I would be like, we come in and first spray, sometimes we can't get parking on the front of the store.
Yeah. So we're not talking about the playhouse ones right now because we're not sure what's going on.
No, now, it's something you and I had talked about. There are several parking spaces up in front of the metal building
There's like
there.
10 of them.
And actually, those are somewhat being used by the construction over at the Scudder building. So that would lend itself, depending on what happens with the building, at least those, if not some more, right there in that area. Because the metal building is on a slab, you could extend that out, probably pick up a few more parking spaces potentially there as well that aren't on here.
Yeah, whenever we get where
this
we know
just-
what we're going to do with that building, so.
Yes.
Yeah, this just.
You were just talking
public parking.
behind town hall.
Street
Yeah.
parking, I should say.
Yes, I'm just talking about behind town hall, behind the police department is restricting that to town employee only.
From,
Yeah.
8 till 4:35.
Yeah, and on the
Monday
weekend,
through
it wouldn't
Friday.
matter, but Monday through Friday from, 8 to 4:30, if that could be restricted. I don't know how you sign the whole parking lot that way. Maybe as you come up the hill, we used to have a sign there with a directional sign. You may be able to put it just right on that signpost there and have it large enough to where people understand, and maybe put one, the front entrance and back entrance.
Yeah, one thing comment I have is I think if we're gonna restrict one side of the street by town hall, I think that from Third to Fourth, it should be restricted, period.
I do too.
Wait,
Both sides of the street, all the public parking.
Third.
Between Third and Fourth.
And that means that.
Between
if in front
EMS
of the the Cannon building on the back there. I think
Yeah,
there's like 4 or
totally.
5 of them that are general.
Yeah, and then there's two more down a little
Down
further and there's going to be more when they get done with that project. And now there's two at the ABC store. So I just think third to fourth should be restricted. And that's really support area for Main Street as far as customers.
On Oak, are you talking Oak Street?
Yeah,
From third to-
yes,
third to fourth,
sorry,
all
sorry,
of
sorry.
those?
Between third and fourth on Oak. We only did one side, but I don't, it makes sense to have it on both sides.
Yeah, particularly since there's gonna be an entrance to a business on that side.
Yeah, with 3 parking places or 2, 3, I don't know how
But,
many.
I mean, what, there at the Cannon building, the Alamo, you know, why wouldn't that be?
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what that meant.
I think it should
just
be.
doesn't even make sense for it not to, because the businesses are
It's only
actually
just
accessible
a
from
handful
there.
of spots through there anyways.
What's that?
There's only just a handful of
Probably
spots.
6.
Yeah, I would say it's not.
7, maybe.
But still,
But
that
still,
makes a
yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
100% agree.
you
Yeah.
know?
We
When
talk
they
about
put
the
a
value
Price
of-
tag on every one of those.
We talk about the
parking places.
value of parking near Main Street, so, or on and, or near, so.
Yep.
I think I would make that adjustment. It's my suggestion.
Okay. Shall we make a motion for each one of these areas
Well, I mean,
I think you do it the whole blanket
or the whole blanket?
and just add the.
yeah, add between third and fourth.
Behind
and
town hall.
Well,
Yeah, it would only be what the planning board gave us plus those 5 spaces on the
Okay.
north side of Oak Street.
I think we can adopt this with that change. And then when it comes to the other parking lots of the town and that kind of stuff, maybe we come back next month and say,
Yeah,
with a little bit more specifics, so we
Okay.
understand that a little bit better.
That's fine.
That's just a thought. I'm willing to go either way, but I'm gonna make a motion to approve the map as presented, the proposed 2025 downtown business district parking map as presented, with the exception of the south, correct? Yes. The south side of Fourth Street,
no, of course.
south side of Oak,
No.
north
Oh,
side.
okay, oh, yeah.
Well, whatever.
So-
Both sides of
Both
Oak
sides.
be included in restricted parking
Between third and fourth.
between third and
Third and
fourth.
fourth. Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
What about the town employee parking?
That,
We'll,
I think since it's not on here, I think we need to bring that one back. And let's just finalize that next month if that's okay.
yeah, okay. Got a
Uh,
motion on the floor. Any further?
And then as
discussion?
far as the spaces over at the daycare drop off, do you want to hold on that? and-
No, I'd go.
Or
So
Well, I'm
what
good.
they have here, what the planning
Yeah.
board,
Yeah, I like their
Presented
recommendation.
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Restrict them to the 2 spots.
right.
All right. Any further discussion before I call the question? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the planning board in their
Yes.
work on giving us these recommendations. Very good. Excellent. Okay, the next item, financial matters, end of the year, number 1, end of the year budget amendments. Josh, will you
So
guide us through that?
Rebecca has worked diligently on this. She has had a knee replacement. She's been out. She's been working from home, trying to get all of the end of the year budget amendments taken care of. Had a lot of goings on. I just want to make a couple of comments. When you look through here, you may notice that property and liability had to be increased in several areas. We ended up going, we left the league and went with Waya Insurance this year. And after we went over, after the budget started, there was several lines of coverage that needed to be increased that they brought to our attention, which I feel like was a positive. And
You mean increased in payout? I mean,
Yes.
coverage?
we weren't covered enough.
Okay.
And
that's
once
what I
they
meant.
started looking at that, they brought it to our attention and I said, yes, we want the additional coverage. So some of these are because of that. That's the reason for the increase. Which I think the town's in a lot better, situation with those increases. A couple of them, there was some carryover, the salt spreaders, took forever to get. And those never, came in last budget year. We didn't get those, put in the new budget. So like $40,000 for the street department, that was carryover salt spreaders. Lamar, they took how many months to ever come in, 14 months or something like that to ever get. So that's what that is. Also capital outlay in the water, the 145,000 that stands out. And that was for the lead and copper because the lead and copper came over into this budget and it was not accounted for. And that was finished up before the October deadline. So that was what that was for. Just wanted to point those out because that's some things that stuck out in my mind and Rebecca and I just discussed those, but everything else is in there. So the recommendation would be to approve these end of the year budget amendments.
Do you need a motion for each one, or can we?
No, you can do it.
Oh,
I'll make a motion to approve the end of the year budget amendments as presented.
Second.
second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. And then, this is a good one. The approval of the low bid for the Dog Mountain Waterline project. Josh.
Thank goodness. We had to have two bid openings because we didn't get the three required bids, the first opening. The second opening, we did get three bids. Bryson Enterprises, Stillwell Enterprises, and TP Howard Plumbing. I think they were out of Asheville. The low bid was Stillwell Enterprises at $2,556,766. So the recommendation from our engineer Withers Ravenel is that the board approve that low bid and approve the resolution that's included in your packet. So that we can send this on to the state, because the state will have to review, as they've reviewed everything else because of the grant funding, they will have to review all the bids and go through them and approve us to give a notice to proceed.
And we're hoping the state will expedite that process and not drag on for months.
We are hoping, and that's it. Yes, we are hoping.
Yeah.
It looks like construction could start the middle of September, sometime the first part of October, which again, as I've mentioned last meeting, really works out better because the road is so narrow. The road is going to be really impassable. And the folks being in there in the Dog Mountain community during the summer, it would have been a lot more difficult. So I think for the residents and the contractor, it's going to work out a lot better starting in fall.
Okay.
Contractors don't work on the weekends.
We haven't got that far yet. They
I
haven't,
didn't know if that was
they
a
haven't-
contract or anything like that.
they haven't requested that. But we'll see once we get into some of those negotiations before construction starts. I will say that a big concern I had was we received a certain amount of funding for this project. Those projected costs were put together, Lamar, 5-6 years ago, at least 4 years ago. And we received $3,386,495, which $668,000 went to engineering. So we had a number we were trying to work, within with these bids. We were very fortunate. Stillwell's bid did come in within the bid we had and give us a 6.3% contingency. Which typically is 10%, but.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, better than nothing. That way, at least we don't have to go out and seek additional
Inflationary.
funding to even start the project. So I was relieved at that.
Yeah.
And Stillwell's always done us a good job.
Yes, they have. They've done a lot of work for us and always very quality work.
Yeah.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the low bid for the Dog Mountain Waterline project.
And the resolution.
Okay.
And the resolution.
And the resolution. And the resolution.
Yep.
All right.
You have a motion already?
Eric has made the motion.
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. We're got a bid approval. Okay. If there's no further discussion, we are at the end of this meeting and I'll have an entertainment request for adjournment. Do we have this?
So move.
All right, all in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Nick.